So, who's up for some Seagull stew? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today. My name is the Crimson Wolf, and welcome back to the Chelsea Countdown for our Premier League game versus Brighton and Hove Albion, which has become a bit more of a personal rivalry for both us and them in recent years, due to both on and off the pitch reasons, mainly off the pitch. Obviously, in recent years, we have stolen a lot of things from Brighton, those being Marc Cucurella, Robert Sanchez, Moise Caicedo, and Graham Potter and his entire staff, so they don't particularly like us and will likely boo any of those three anytime they're on the ball in this game. They're basically are just our little brothers, basically. Like, they show up just to be annoying. We steal their good stuff, and then they go and find something, and maybe in a couple of years it looks appealing, and then we go and steal it from them again. Right now they're in a very good patch of form under German manager Fabian Hürzeler. Obviously incredibly young for a manager, only 31 years old. He's had a good start to the life in the league. 2 wins and 3 draws in his first 5 games. Obviously those 2 wins being Everton and Man United, and then draws with Arsenal, Ipswich and Nottingham Forest. And he does have some good players available to him, but so do we. If you're new to the Chelsea Countdown around here, let me give you a quick overview. I go through lineups, predictions and scorelines, and try to come to a conclusion of what this game is going to look like. With that out of the way, let's begin in goal with Robert Sanchez. Robert Sanchez has earned his number 1 shirt as of recently. He is currently the highest performing Premier League goalkeeper, and honestly, it's been showing. That Bournemouth game was absolutely spectacular from Sanchez. He saved us so badly in that game. And then the West Ham game after, he had much less to do because West Ham didn't really pose any proper threat. What I did really appreciate from Sanchez in that game was his ability to start us off on the counter when he was claiming balls and then immediately throwing them out for our front players to go chase down so we could get higher up the pitch. That was really good from Sanchez. He's definitely earned his number 1 spot so far. Moving into the back line, and it is a reversion to our back line from, I believe, the first 3 games of the season, which is a return to the squad for Malo Gusto, Wesley Fofana playing in his more favoured right centre-back position, alongside Levi Colwill and Marc Cucurella. Obviously, Malo Gusto returned midweek, starting the game against Barrow in the League Cup, and was substituted on 45 minutes. That was clearly just to make sure he was still match fit and still able to play consistently, and he played very well versus Barrow, and subbing him off at 45 minutes was obviously to make sure he didn't overstrain him, basically. Gusto seemed fine, so I think he will be able to start this game. He'll probably get subbed some point in the second half, but I think it'll be good to start this game, which means Wes Fofana comes back into the right centre-back position, where he is so much better than out a right back out of position, and he can continue with his growing impeccable partnership with Levi Colwill. Levi Colwill himself has been absolutely phenomenal for us this season. Genuinely, I still stand by this. Levi is a top 5 centre-back in the league. Top 5 centre-back in the league. In his position, left-sided centre-back, probably top 3. And then Marc Cucurella, genuinely, I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. My Premier League, or football hot take in general, actually, is that Marc Cucurella is currently the best left-back in the world. What he did at the end of the season for us, and what he did for Spain at the Euros, and how he started this season, has been amazing. He is such an incredible player, easily able to defend. He's got a decent amount of attacking ability in him. He managed to get a couple of assists on him, both for us and for Spain. Obviously the winning assist in the final, sadly. So he's just kind of he's the overall package. He's more than capable of defending, and while his attacking output isn't the likes of a Robertson, for example, he's more than capable of getting up the pitch and putting in some decent balls. So Cucurella has been so improved since about a year ago when everybody wanted him gone. This backline is slowly becoming incredibly formidable. We've only conceded 5 goals so far this season, 2 to Man City, 2 to Wolves, and 1 to Crystal Palace. Our last 3 games have been clean sheets, so hopefully that continues against Brighton. As we move into the midfield, which is the same midfield that started versus West Ham, same midfield that started most games this season, and that is a midfield pivot of captain Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, with Cole Palmer in the number 10. Enzo and Caicedo played incredibly well versus West Ham, especially Moises Caicedo. He was all over the place. He had a Kante-esque performance in that game, just all over the place, supplying energy to that midfield and winning the ball. Obviously, he managed to get the assist for Nicholas Jackson's second goal, which is incredible. Enzo Fernandez, I think, went a bit under the radar for the West Ham game. People don't tend to realize that, which is that Enzo's job, it's not incredibly notable. His job is important and he gets it done. And his job is to kind of keep things ticking over, be the midfield metronome, and just make sure the ball gets from A to B no matter really what. And he's doing that job very well. And I think he is doing a decent job as captain, because I like how vocal he is. I like his style of captaincy, because he will just start shouting at people if he needs to. So I'm alright with Enzo being captain right now. I have no complaints with it. As for Cole Palmer, I did go back and forth, and we're going to talk about this later, where to play Cole Palmer, whether to play him in the 10 as per normal, or to play him on the right wing to facilitate the use of another player, which I'm going to talk about soon. I did end up going with the number 10, as this is supposed to be more of a predicted lineup than my personal lineup. I do give my thoughts on everything, but it is a predicted lineup. So, and I do believe Cole Palmer starts in the number 10. Cole Palmer genuinely is just one of the best players on the planet. Like, I don't need to speak much about Cole Palmer. He's just that guy. He is just one of the best players on the planet. There's not much you can say about the guy. He shows up, he gets the job done. Like, whether it's scoring, assisting, anything in between, like he goes and he gets the job done. And he's one of the best in the world at it. Moving into my front 3 for this game, and I've gone with Noni Madueke on the right, Jadon Sancho on the left, with Nicholas Jackson up front. I do think there is very much room for speculation with this front line, and that includes Cole Palmer. As I mentioned earlier, I did consider putting Palmer on the right, which was to facilitate the use of Christopher Nkunku, because obviously he has been playing incredibly well. Obviously scored a hat-trick midweek. I did consider that and dropping Madueke. Not really a slant on Madueke. He's played quite well. I don't think he's played as well as he did in the Wolves game, but that was an incredible high for the season. So in the end, I've stuck with it. I did consider playing Pedro Neto over Jadon Sancho, because I think with Brighton's attacking style, there's going to be more room in behind for us to go at, and that is much more Neto's specialty than it is Sancho's. So I think I could have chosen Neto for this. However, I'm going to continue with Jadon Sancho, because I think he has started life to Chelsea incredibly well. Obviously, it's 2 assists in 2 games against Bournemouth and West Ham. So he has started life very, very well, Jadon Sancho. As for Nicholas Jackson, obviously off the back of an incredible performance last weekend against West Ham, 2 goals and an assist in that game. By far and away the best player on the pitch. I know there's been the argument that Nkunku should start over Nicholas Jackson, but right now I wouldn't really mess with it too much. Jackson's in really good form, so I wouldn't really mess with it. As I mentioned earlier, this is the type of game where you can imagine there being much more space in behind to run in, and that is 110% Jackson's specialty. I wouldn't be adverse to Christopher Nkunku starting. I think he's a fantastic player and arguably the best finisher in the entire squad. I wouldn't be against him starting, but I think it is much more likely we see Nicholas Jackson start. This game has become slightly much more personal over the years. As I mentioned earlier, it is largely because of off the pitch reasons. Brighton are always discussed as that one team that like nobody can hate, and every time that conversation gets brought up, I'm just like, have you spoken to any Chelsea fans about Brighton? We don't like them. They don't like us. So it's becoming a bit of an unspoken rivalry in football, purely based off of off the field things. Nothing to do with what's happened on the field. Like, there's not been any incidents there really. it is purely off the field reasons because of everything that's happened in the transfer market and managers and everything in between. I do quite admire the job that Fabian Hürzeler has done, especially at his age. Being 31 years old and coaching in the Premier League is really impressive, and he's had a really good start to his life at Brighton. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, undefeated in 5 games, so we will look to break that undefeated streak. We very much can, and they are missing probably their best player in João Pedro, which is a big miss for them. So they'll be starting with Danny Welbeck up front with, I would guess, Jorginho Ruta in behind him in that number 10 role, which is the 2 positions João Pedro tends to play. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Karim Mitoma is obviously an incredible danger man for them. He started the season last year incredibly well, and then obviously I think he dropped off a bit towards January time, and then also he got that season-ending injury. He started the season quite well, Mitoma. He's not been anything like world-class or anything. I think he's a very good player, Mitoma, and he clearly loves football. Like, if you've heard anything about this guy, you know he loves football. So he's a very, very good player, and he is definitely someone that shouldn't be taken lightly. On the other side, I don't particularly know who's going to start between Simon Adingra and Yankuba Minter. Both are very good players. I think Adingra is the better player. Minter's been starting more games, but personally I think Adingra is the better player. But they're up against Cookin, so that's going to be a massive acid test for them. We can 100% win this game. Brighton have started the season very well, yes, and to be fair to them, they've played some solid teams. Arsenal was probably a pretty good result for them. Very lucky because they did have Declan Rice sent off when he really shouldn't have been, so they were quite lucky in that aspect. Obviously beating Man United, I wouldn't say convincingly, but obviously the last minute winner from João Pedro to win the game was incredibly good. They battered Everton, but that's no surprise. Everton are in quite bad form right now. And then Nottingham Forest, to be fair, Nottingham Forest haven't had a bad start to the season, so the result against them was probably quite good. So I have no complaints about Brighton's form, but we can 100% beat them. They are a team that aren't going to sit back because they have a more expansive brand of football. So it is going to consist of us finding that space in behind for us to go into, and then just exploiting it, and then taking the shots on goal and hopefully converting them. So that is what we need to do in this game. While they don't have João Pedro, as I mentioned already, their strike force is quite impressive. So Wes, Levi, Gusto and Cucurella are going to have a really good game in order, if we want to continue our streak of clean sheets, which we would all appreciate. And obviously Sanchez needs to have a good game, and he will be up for this game. Obviously playing against Brighton, he'll definitely be up for this, and he'll be getting the jeers and the boos from the Brighton crowd, which would be quite amusing to listen to. So overall, this is a very winnable game. This is probably the second hardest fixture we've had so far, behind only Man City, of course. So this is a bit more of a test to see if this team is truly building something special, or if we've just faced some quite weak opposition. So personally, I think this team is absolutely on fire right now, and I think Brighton is just another obstacle in our path to success. So personally, I think this is going to be a pretty good game. And as for the scoreline, something tells me 3-1. I've got that in my head for some reason, but I'm going to take one off of each for that, and I'm going to go for 2-0. I think 2-0 is a reasonable scoreline, and I'm going to go for goals from Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson. Same goal scorers as the West Ham game, just obviously not with Jackson getting the double. Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. I would not be surprised if Brighton score this in this game, because as I've already been through their strike force, like, it is incredibly good, so it cannot be underestimated. But I think our centre backs and our full backs right now are in incredibly good patches, so I think they'll be able to deal with them well enough. Obviously, Levi actually played on loan for Brighton, so he knows this lot better than anybody, so he'll know how to deal with them as well. Obviously, Cucurella knows them for his time there. Sanchez knows them. And we've played them enough times to the point that we should know how to beat these guys. So, honestly, I think we go and get this win tomorrow. I think it'll be a very good game. It'll be a very good performance from us. I hope, at least. So, but yeah, we need to just exploit any room that we can and take advantage of it, and I think that's what we're going to do to beat them tomorrow. So those were my predictions for our Premier League game versus Brighton. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a comment down below with your lineup and your predictions for this game and your scoreline, of course, the whole shebang. And I hope to see you all in the next video. So with that being said, my name is the Crimson Wolf, the reddest Chelsea fan on the internet, and you have all been amazing. So I'll see you in the next video. Good luck with it.